Be advised, mature content ahead. This podcast is brought to you ad-free thanks to the Legion of Demons at patreon.com/NOTLP. If you like what you hear, there's much more at patreon.com/NOTLP. Join the Legion. That's patreon.com/NOTLP. And now the show.
How do you do? Just a word of friendly warning. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
Welcome to Night of the Living podcast. We're still eating the rich this month.
Bienvenue.
And we'll be talking about Parasite.
What meat shortage, I tell you.
That's right. And
those fat cats can go for a while.
They can just live off their humps. And I'll be reviewing one of the episodes of Hulu's horror indie film series, Into the Dark. It's called Crawlers. And I am here. I'm Freddy. Amy is here.
Hello.
Kelley is here.
I am here.
Mikey is here.
Oh,
I'm here.
Baloo is here. He says, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." And Andy is here.
Hey.
We got the whole crew today.
Hey.
This makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It's like when your kids come home for Christmas and you haven't seen them in months.
I wasn't sure who Andy was all through the earlier part of a Recording Origins. He had a black bar across his eyes.
Yeah.
I thought it was him, but I couldn't be sure.
Is it like Clark Kent? I put my glasses on, you know, like, oh my God, who is that?
Well, I was confused. It looked like your upper and lower face, but if I don't see your eyes.
We should do an episode where we all have those blue dots over our heads like they used to use on Court TV.
I'd like to be in a dark room and have my voice slowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just be a silhouette.
I lived in the Parasite house, but I don't want to appear on camera. So, patrons, thank you so much for your support. We had a great every week on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have these really fun Zoom meetups. This week we played some Jackbox, the new one, which was really fun. And Esther was slurry.
Soup's drunk. She was having a great old time.
She was cracking me up.
And
does she want people to know that?
Oh, she don't.
I don't know. It's fun.
Esther, you need help.
She's doing great.
Stage a Zoom intervention.
I think we all have.
That'd be really easy to leave.
Yeah. I've definitely drank a little bit more than I normally do during all of this.
Drinking?
I've been drinking.
Mm-hmm. You're Drankenstein.
Mm-hmm. And ain't nothing wrong with it. We're all just getting by how we can right now.
That's right.
Finding out my local restaurants have good drinks to carry out.
Yeah.
And I still haven't
watermelon margarita, La Piñata.
I need to do that.
You'll be able to supplement your meat intake by just replacing it with booze during the shortage.
They're the same, essentially.
Yeah. It's the
same nutrients.
That's what monks did, right? Then they just say, we're out of meat. Let's drink Pilsners and stuff.
I think those are the drunks, not the monks.
Oh, yeah.
Drunk monk.
And it's Tony Shalhoub. That's what he thinks too.
He's also a germaphobe. How appropriate. Not Tony Shalhoub.
He's ahead of his time.
Yeah.
I've never watched Monk.
Me neither.
Should I watch Monk?
Might be the time.
Is now the time?
If now isn't the time, there is no time.
The people who created Black Mirror are encouraging people not to watch it right now.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Because they say it's too depressing. I thought that was interesting.
I don't want any part of that nonsense. I want only comfort and hilarity. Although I've been watching NYPD Blue, which is not very comforting. but it's also of a different time.
Yeah. How late 80s is it? Like how?
Well, early 90s.
Oh.
Early mid 90s is where I'm at. I'm in season.
But they still have a lot of that pea green office equipment.
Yeah. No, they don't really have cell phones. It's just a different time, which makes it okay, unless because I know what happens in their time.
Oh, you've seen it all.
It's their time. Their time down here.
Yeah.
I miss procedurals.
Yeah.
I missed undone ties and cops at hot dog carts.
Yeah.
Sipowitz.
The casual, gentle racism of Sipowitz. Yeah. I don't know that it's gentle.
Yeah.
And I love a badge on a lanyard, on a necklace.
Oh, do you like when lady cops?
He's like, hey, if you want to be black, it's okay.
It's all right with me. Live and let live. Do you like it when the lady cops wear the badge on their belt, like at their hip, and they're like, hey, this is a sexy.
I like how
sexy cop.
I like how the lady cops wear tight pants and and heels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
it's not good for field work, but it's sexy.
Yeah, that's why they don't wear the badge on the shirt. Is because there's no room between the shirt and the skin to pin the badge, but there's room on the belt.
Ah.
They're like, look at my waistline.
I mean, is NCIS is still on the air? Is that sort of a procedural? I never really watched it.
It is.
So let's start watching
Law
that.
and Order that's still like airing.
Yeah. Law and Order.
That's more buttoned up. That's more formal.
There are a ton of procedurals. If you want
Chicago PD, I don't know any of this stuff.
Criminal Minds.
That show actually started to get to me. I can't handle it. Yeah.
Anybody watch 911?
A little bit.
We started it and liked it. Why didn't we continue?
We just lost track of it.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Fun.
It is fun.
They when they advertised that originally, they tried to make it look like a horror show.
Well, in a way it is, because everything that happens in the show is ridiculously over the top and absurd.
Yeah, didn't they find out like a baby got flushed down a toilet or something?
Yeah.
That's episode 1, the baby in the toilet.
Weren't they trying to get the baby out of the walls or something?
because it was in the...
So that it wouldn't become a sewer baby and seek revenge.
Yeah, they didn't want a sewer baby on their hands on the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
You opened the sewers before you're supposed to.
You told people it was safe.
You knew there was a baby down there.
Swimming in human waste.
Well, that's when the sewers make all their money, the 4th of July.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to watch. Yeah, I like shit like, earlier we were talking and Andy and I came up with a brilliant idea.
Was the brilliant idea Quint, the plumber for the sewer baby 4th of July problem? And he's like,
no, that's your brilliant idea. I have no part of this.
I'll get your sewer baby.
It's a bad baby.
Amy's da baby today.
All it does is stick in the wall,
eat, sleep, and poop,
and make more little sewer babies.
Does he have scars that he's compared from that he got from all the babies?
Yeah.
So Andy and I are, Andy is defined simply by his Murder, She Wrote fandom. He's a fanboy of Jessica Fletcher, right? Everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a fangirl of Star Trek, right?
Oh.
So we were talking about how wouldn't it be fun if they had a murder mystery on Star Trek?
A mashup.
And they couldn't solve it, so they fire up the holodeck and bring Jessica Fletcher in.
I love this.
To solve. And Andy and I are going to write this. We're going to write it.
You could plus it even if like even she runs into some problems and she has to bring Inspector Gadget in.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't one of them be like the way Picard or the way that Data was fucking Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone could be Jessica Fletcher.
Oh my God. What if it's Riker?
Dr. Crusher.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went with Riker.
I would love Riker as Jessica Fletcher.
Or what if they brought in Sipowicz on the holodeck?
Oh God, the things he would say to Geordi.
Yeah.
So Amy, who is the busybody on Star Trek? Who would butt heads with Jessica Fletcher? Because they're both busybodies.
Wesley Crusher. He was a busybody.
No.
He's a turd. What a
Next
turd.
Gen, I mean...
Guinan's a busybody.
Who?
Whoopi Guinan?
Whoopi, yeah.
Oh, I love her.
But she's the bartender. They're
She
always
is, yeah.
busybody.
Yeah.
And she knows things, but she won't tell you all that she knows.
Yeah, she's a Riddler.
Yeah, she's kind of a busybody that doesn't share the gossip.
Well, that's the worst kind of busybody.
Mm-hmm.
if this quarantine and this situation gets worse and worse, and I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need them to bring the whole crew back together of Next Gen, Deep Space. I don't care, and do a Jessica Fletcher. She's still alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring her in.
That's a tall order, really.
You need them
she's
to
a tall
do
lady.
that and read you and Andy's fan fiction.
Yeah, we're gonna write the script, and then I need them to fucking make it.
Well, if they won't make it, maybe Kelley can animate it for us.
Does anybody have a kid that's on the Make-A-Wish list that I could take their wish?
Who has a dying child that
Anybody
can
want to
borrow?
give me their wish?
I mean, all of them worked at CBS, right? We're still all in the CBS
Yeah, I think so.
big tent. Mm-hmm. So what else can we bring in from CBS? Oh,
Everybody Loves Raymond.
yeah. We'll bring in Marie.
She's dead, though.
Oh, God. Deborah and Jessica would hate each other.
Yeah.
Deborah.
Oh, boy.
That's another thing I missed from the 80s and 90s. Mashups. Remember crossover episodes?
Yeah, they were great. Have you guys seen Bad Education yet? It's the new HBO movie. The reason I thought of it made sense a second ago, and then it was gone.
I hate you so much.
But it's an interesting movie. It's about a school It's a true story. Hugh Jackman plays this like school administrator, and Allison Janney is one of his other upper members of this administration of the school, and they end up in a scandal for spending, the school's money on inappropriate stuff. But God damn it if I can't remember why I thought of it. Something you guys are talking about. Anyways, it's pretty good.
It's a comedy?
It's a comedy, but it's like a true story. It's like one of those movies where they take a crazy true story and they pull the humor out of it somewhat, but it's also got some serious moments, some drama in it. It was just a good movie.
Drama for your mama?
Yeah.
Drama for Obama.
So is there anything that you're not watching, Freddie? I feel like you've reached the end.
I have a recommend
you've
for
seen
you.
everything.
What?
Freddie, have you actually, especially for you two on the top, that's Freddie and Amy, have you guys watched Robbie? It's Rory Scovel's new show.
No.
Where's it?
Rory Scovel. It's on Comedy Central.
Okay.
You can watch it on their application. And Colin introduced it to me yesterday. I only saw bits and pieces of, I think, the first episode, but it was pretty funny.
I remember why I thought of Bad Education finally.
All right, we'll check out Robbie.
Ray Romano is in it.
Oh, yeah. He's been having a moment, right?
He's really good. Like, it's one of those things.
He's a great actor.
Well, yeah, I never really thought that when I love Everybody Loves Raymond. That's a great show, but I just always thought it was just him, his stand-up comedy. Like, he was just kind of being himself,
I think he developed.
He did develop.
After having been on that show for a while.
Yeah.
I think he just probably had some latent acting ability.
He's really, really good. Like, he's great in this movie. But
he was in The Irishman, too.
He was, yeah.
He was good in that,
on
too.
Parenthood.
I heard great things about Men of a Certain Age, but I never got around to watching it. It's him and Andre Brower.
Yeah.
You guys are all men of a certain age.
We are.
Think about that.
Speaking of men of a certain age,
I'm a man of a certain
stupid,
gauge, and that's 38.
I'm ashamed to kind of admit this, but I watched the Big Show Netflix special or Netflix TV series.
The Big Show?
He has a
The wrestler?
The wrestler?
Yeah.
Oh.
I love The Big Show.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
How is it?
It's easy.
Easy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's what I like
Who's
right
Big
now.
Show?
Remember According to Jim?
Yeah.
Oh, is it a sitcom?
Yeah.
And The Big Show is like the
Or is it-
schlubby
yeah,
husband?
Yeah.
Huh. The Big Show was a WWE wrestler, Kelley. He was really popular in the early 2000s.
Oh my God, I love
Oh.
the description. Former WWE
He was
wrestler.
really big in the 2000s.
It was a big shoe.
Former WWE wrestler The Big Show is out of the ring and ready for an even tougher challenge, raising 3 daughters with his wife in Florida.
Oh my God. So many ladies in a house with a big man.
Does one of them get
You
their
know what?
period and he doesn't know how to handle it?
Does what?
Does one of them get their first period, and he doesn't know how to handle it? Does that really
That
happen?
happens. Yeah, and it's got the classic trope of daughter from a different marriage coming home, and there's a cantankerous little girl in the show, and they're supposed to share rooms, but the sharing the room just doesn't work. So they're like one step away from putting the tape down the middle of the room.
Oh, that's so cozy.
Do you know what's funny? I just
He should body slam them both.
Oh, that'd be great if that's how every time they start to play like the tinkly father-daughter moment music like they did on Full House, he just grabbed one of them and like obliterates
Suplexes them like
Yeah. Choke slammed him.
One of the creators is actually a writer on Solar Opposites, which we really love.
Oh, Solar Opposites is awesome.
And remember LA to Vegas?
I loved that show.
was a
That plane show. That was awesome.
Yeah,
He
that was
wrote on
so
that
sad
too.
that did that get canceled or
Yeah,
they okay, I wasn't sure if they just quit
Long
making
time
it.
ago.
But if you've never seen LA to Vegas, if you're killing time like many of us are because you're home, LA to Vegas is a great sitcom to revisit. You have to get through the first 2 or 3 episodes that aren't great. They're okay, but then
Yeah,
it really hits
I
its
love
stride.
Peter Stormare. He's good in everything.
Yeah, Peter Stormare steals the show in that. And
I love that guy.
which one is the pilot?
Dylan McDermott.
Dylan McDermott doesn't, and then Dermot Mulroney shows up
Yeah, I think so.
in a later episode as another.
What's
it's
a pilot?
It's fun. It's like the first show, and they see if they want to pick it up. I had a joke. There's a.
It actually reminds me a lot
tomato.
about Superstore and AP Bio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
You know, like
similar.
where everybody's a buthoon.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Is AP Bio going to get picked back up somewhere?
I think it got canceled, but
No,
pianist-
it's going to be on the NBC exclusive channel, so we have to
okay.
subscribe to that if you want to watch it.
damn it.
Oh, speaking of great comedies coming back, good news, bad news. Good news, Reno 911 made another season. I don't know if you're fans, but I really love that show.
Isn't it on Quibi?
Bad news is it's only on
Quibi.
Quibi, so you have to watch
I'm
it
sorry, Quibi?
on your
Quibi.
mobile devices. Yeah, Quibi.
Bye.
I do have like trouble with. There's like a show that's on satellite, and they have, I think, an app somewhere, but you have to have satellite to use the app. And it's like, what's the point
They
of a
don't-
cable service having a streaming app for you to watch it? Like, I'm willing to pay for the app if I don't want the whole. You know what I mean? Like, I have no way to watch this show. It's Brian Regan is a character on this show.
Yeah,
And I really wanted to watch it. Looks like got a great cast, and it sounds really funny. It's called Louder Milk, and it's got like 2 or 3 seasons, and it's on fucking DirecTV or whatever, and I have no way of watching it.
I don't know why they make it so hard. I mean, I understand that the industry is still trying to figure its shit out, but figure it out faster.
Right. I still remember getting pissed off because I loved Community, and then that last season only came out on the Yahoo whatever.
Oh,
I
Yahoo
still never seen
Screen.
it.
Yahoo Screen.
But they're all on
That was
Netflix
the
now.
worst.
Yeah, I never saw the last
That
season.
season 2?
We
Yeah,
haven't.
the whole complete.
Oh, we should watch it.
Well, maybe we did watch it.
Maybe it wasn't that good.
Anyway, all of Community is on Netflix. I've restarted that because I finished my Parks and Rec rewatch. So now I'm doing Community, which is the most fucking brilliant comedy show ever
Community
written.
It's a great
is
show.
great. Can I bitch one more second about
You may.
apps and cable?
Yes.
This one really annoyed me. So there's a channel that does a lot of like cryptozoology. It's like a travel channel thing. Discovery America.
Oh yeah.
And it has a ton of good like monster shows and shit. Well, I don't know if they're good, but it has a bunch of them. So one of them is probably good. And there's an app, and I even have cable. Like I can sign in, but because we don't have that channel,
Yeah.
we can't get the app. If I had the channel, I wouldn't need the app. Like,
Well, the
it's not
concept.
fair. I
yeah.
pay for the cable.
Yeah.
I pay for the app. Why can't I have this?
Wait. You can you watch it on your cable box?
No, I don't have the
Not part of
channel.
his lineup.
Well, that's
It's not-
that's the thing is like the cable companies. The only reason they have the app is so you can watch stuff
He
at the
just
office.
wants it.
They're
Give
for
it to
people.
him.
They're for people on the go. But yeah, the whole cable thing it needs to just die. You should just be able to subscribe, like you're saying, Kelley. Like if you want a channel, you should be able to do business directly with that channel, which is what a lot of things are moving to, which is great. But at the same time, I get it, man. You know what? Yeah, can I gripe for a minute?
Please do.
Sure.
I'm gonna gripe for a minute. you can get Shudder as a channel on Prime and Apple TV and all these other services, but you can't watch their live stream on any of them. You have to have subscribed through their website to do that. And that is dumb. So if you're listening, Shudder, please work with Apple and Prime to fix that so those of us with the channel can watch the Joe Bob Last Drive-In shows when they air. Because I feel like I don't want to go back to just using the website. I don't think that's as nice an experience.
Well, as the thing, if you want, I have the Shudder. Like, I didn't do it through another service, so if you want, I'll give you my login if you want to watch Joe Bob.
For shame.
See what you're forcing us to do, Shudder?
Do you see?
Do you see?
Do you see?
Well, that's,
Speaking of complaining about those things, what the heck is HBO Max?
I don't know.
Let me tell you what I think about HBO Max.
HBO, you can't come into my house and be like, I got friends. No, you don't. You never had friends. You can't show me friends.
And they bought South Park, so you're only going to be able to watch South Park on it.
I don't like South Park, so I'm fine.
Yeah, and only you matter, I guess.
Wait, HBO took Friends?
Yes.
They own Friends now.
That didn't have anything to do with HBO.
They want to be like Netflix now.
Yeah.
And it's like, then call yourselves something else. You can't be HBO. That's a very specific thing.
Well, it used to be HBO was just movies, and then they started making TV shows, and now they're buying other TV
I'm
shows.
confused.
Then they were Go, then they were Now, then they were Go Now, then they were Get Out. Now they're
HBO Get Out.
They're like, HBO.
Next they're going to be Irma.
Don't let the door hit you.
HBO Went, playing only the best in classics.
It's very confusing, Mikey.
It is confusing because I just realized that Sesame Street has been doing stuff, and it's on HBO,
Right.
which we have, but I think it's only going to HBO Max.
Oh, when they switch to Max, it's going to go there?
I don't understand.
Well, I mean, chances are, I think we get it for free when it starts because we're already subscribers.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, and if it's great, maybe we keep it. It all depends on what they're asking. They haven't they released what it's going to cost yet?
It's like free bread. That's how they get you.
Because like HBO is already like $16 a month. Like Netflix
still
is
a premium subscription service,
right, and like Netflix is like $1 more than that. Like if you're just looking to compete, you probably have to keep the price point where it is.
Yeah,
at most, I'd pay $1 more. I think.
Why it should just be one thing?
Yeah.
It's going to be
I just feel like all
$15.
these.
Sorry.
How much?
15.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so it's basically the same.
I guess.
Oh.
Well, what's on
I'll stop
HBO?
complaining.
Be what's on HBO Max?
That's what they said in the original advertising for it. Was it's everything you have with HBO plus stuff.
I'm going to look.
All right.
You guys.
I wonder
This
if
is
it'll
the
have.
most first world problem
I know.
rant that we've ever been on.
I hate it.
There's people out there who are probably listening who are like first responders and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like,
There are some people that have no channels.
some people don't have channels or shoes.
They've got content they want to see too. Stuff.
It's true.
It might
Everybody
be a
wants
nice
content.
distraction. Sometimes these first world problems are nice to put your mind on when real world problems are not so fun to think about.
They're small and manageable, so they're kind of fun. Little problems.
I feel like streaming problems
like
are a problem that spans socioeconomic levels.
That's right. It's a great equalizer, as Madonna would say. I only have.
I don't want to be like
right
one of those people that say like, things could be worse, but just having this conversation is putting a lot of things in perspective.
Well, when we talk about Parasite later, this is exactly why this is the natural thing of checking your privilege, I guess. What are you looking at, Amy? Is it porn?
Dead ass. Nothing. Okay.
Pornhub Max has friends.
Did you just patrons? If you want to be
this ain't friends.
If you want to support.
Well, that's funny because like there are certain websites they show in HD and you need a subscription to that. So I'm like, nope. I'm gonna watch the free stuff.
NOTLP.com/ or patreon.com.
Huh?
Go on the internet.
Just type stuff.
Start typing, you'll find us.
Yeah, patreon.com/NOTLP. There was a new Night of the Comic.
Yeah,
we've
been doing Night of the Comic most Wednesday mornings. We missed one because I had my first telehealth doctor's appointment.
Me too.
Yeah, what did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah. Did you open your butt for him? And you're like, can you look at this and tell me if that's a hemorrhoid or a lesion?
I asked him if I could, and she said,
But you had the potato filter on, so your asshole came through a potato.
Mine was a pizza. Mine was a pizza with a mouth and eyes. And then I turned the filter on.
I've been doing therapy via telehealth, and it's been great.
Yeah,
it was funny. I had to take my own temperature. They wanted me to take my own blood pressure.
I don't have any of that
like-
stuff. I mean, I have a thermometer,
Yeah.
but I don't.
I
have
have
a
a.
cuff.
I couldn't do my blood pressure yet. I have a sphygmomanometer and a stethoscope.
Did you say a
'cause they're more
sphygmometer?
A sphygmomanometer?
What is that?
The thing.
A flux capacitor?
That's the thing.
I have the flux capacitor so that I can go back in time before this so I could get my blood pressure taken by my doctor
and then come back. Yeah.
and tell her what it was.
Did you have to grab your own balls and
it's
cough?
it's a blood pressure thing.
Yeah.
It's the real it's the thing. It's the thing. You tie it around your arm and you pump it up.
I just saw a cuff.
It's the thing.
So that the
Well,
what's the scientific
it has
name?
a cuff.
The scientific name is sphygmometer.
Just stop indulging this. Don't
The
you dare answer it.
sphygmomanometer.
It's a spooky Terminator.
The spooky Terminator is what you pump up and it has the dial. The cuff is the cuff.
Can't
And
you
the
just
stethoscope is the stethoscope.
can't you just get one of those bulbs that you remove mucus from kids' noses with and just attach?
I have two
that
of those. That's
to,
what I
like,
clean my ears out.
An old pair of jeans. Wrap that around your arm.
Yes.
That's
So
the same.
Kelley, did the nurse watch you do that, or do you just tell the nurse like, this is my temperature, this is my?
That.
They just want you to tell them what it is.
Yeah, she just wanted me to. I didn't have to prove it or anything.
Did they tell you to smear blood on your monitor? I thought that was weird.
They're like,
And that's to keep you from that's like what you did in Egypt, right? You smear
Right.
blood on.
I think they wanted to check my cholesterol. They said it was butter. It was basically pure butter.
they use the filter, the screen filter to check. I don't know.
That's me smacking my dog's butt.
Yeah.
Anyway, sphygmomanometer, for those who don't know, is the blood pressure machine
Yeah.
that includes a cup. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't have to, but it should.
So you have the whole booth like they have in the drugstore where you
got one
sit
of those.
down.
Yeah.
Do you just
I had
put
it
that next to your TV or your refrigerator?
I think we broke
It's
Mike.
portable. But I had it installed.
Yeah.
Even though it's portable, I wanted it to be in an inconvenient place to get my blood pressure a little higher,
Yeah. I put
just
mine,
to like hedge it, you know.
I put mine next to my elevated toilet, like in Parasite, right next to the window that floods.
I kind of dig that setup, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Night of the Comic is
It has its
available.
drawbacks, Amy.
I see that.
Oh my!
But Night of Comics is
that your-
only available on NOTLP Max.
Yeah, our Patreon is now called NOTLP Max.
No. We'll still have the Patreon, but then we're gonna have Max, and then who knows what else we'll get.
We have friends.
I'm gonna
But
have a
extra
Pike
content.
only channel
Yeah,
We bought Friends.
we bought friends.
with patron money.
We're getting a lot of money through patrons, and if we bought Friends,
Okay, this is the dumbest. Anything else?
Yeah, check out Night of the Comics. Been a lot of fun because we do it early in the morning and we don't know what the hell half the time what we're doing, so it's a very loosey goosey kind of moment. And
just like this show.
Yeah, only leaving less so organized. But we talked about video games last time, which was fun. So it's a comic book show, though. We mostly talk about comics or comic adjacent things. Like the reason we were talking about video games is mostly about the art. I heard a boom boom. Did somebody zoom in their boom boom?
All right.
Mike
No,
did.
all the zoom is here.
All right, if
I'm
it's all
zooming.
there.
My poom poom is full.
Boom boom.
Your poom poom? Andy's
Yeah,
squeezing out.
zoom in the poom poom. My poom poom is full of zoom.
Andy had a painful fart or maybe a bowel movement.
I can't stand it. It's ridiculous.
So
Amy, just be thankful that I'm not in the room doing that.
I know, but the look on your face, it looked like it hurt so much.
it did look painful.
Well, I was contemplating. I was like, should I push? But then I said, no, I shouldn't push.
Oh,
Is it one of those ones that really flaps and you're just like, ah?
Andy's butt was written by Sapphire.
Okay,
It's been through a lot. The tragic story.
Oh my lord!
I guess we'll be back after this. Make sure
Yeah.
everybody mute on their end during the jibber jabber. We'll be back.
Hello, boys and girls. It's time for straight to video Russian roulette.
Listen up, you drunks! It's time for the bar crawl! Have you guys seen Chloe?
Hey, it's St. Patrick's Day. You call this celebrating?
What's going on? What does it look like?
Aliens.
Aliens? Alien imposters.
Are rapidly replacing the citizens of this town.
Hi! She's gone. They took her. And I don't want to hear about some conspiracy theory right now.
We need to get out of here right now.
Stop the car!
Well, we're all fucked.
You just have a gun on you? Got out the dead alien.
So, I watched Crawlers. Oh, I got to unmute Kelley.
Yeah.
Hi, Kelley.
What?
I had to unmute you. I had muted you during that because you guys share a channel with the sounds.
Thank you.
Zounds.
That movie sounds like a lot of other movies.
It does. It's actually very much kind of like a low rent The World's End.
That's what it sounded like. That's exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's funnish. It has. Okay, let me just give you the easy synopsis, and then I'll get into the nitty gritty. On St. Patrick's Day night, a night of wild parties and drunken revelry, three unlikely friends band together to save a college town from a vicious horde of body switching aliens. Okay, your main character is
The World's End.
It's basically like similar to The World's End, only the background of the characters. It opens with a narration. This girl speaking into a webcam, essentially, I think, is what it's supposed to be. Her character, this is Shauna, and she's this pretty blonde college-age girl. And when they cut to her telling the story of the St. Patrick's Day thing that happened, she looks different in the flashback. She has dark hair. She's like an anarchist kind of character, conspiracy theorist character. And she's the observer of what's happening with these other characters at first. And every time she introduces a character, they do the freeze frame with the name on the screen and the explanation of who they are. And they overuse that in this movie to the point where...
Because they're not Edgar Wright.
Right.
They don't know how to do it right.
Right. It's just too much. Like, it gets to the point where you're just like, she's doing that. They're using that as a crutch through a lot of the movie to support the narrative, because there's no real foreshadowing or any honest setup that's earned of why these characters are connected. But you have the main character that she's talking about is this character Misty, another college student, and her best friend Chloe, who are having kind of a falling out. They're growing apart because Chloe has a new friend named Eugene, who Misty is scared that she's replacing her in Chloe's life. And they're all out doing the pub crawl on St. Patrick's Day. They run, yeah. And this town goes over the top for St. Patty's. Like, the whole town is like lit up green. Like, there's green everywhere. Everyone's really into it. It's the point where the police can't enforce the laws because so many people are just being assholes in the streets. It's a college town. And Shauna keeps talking about her mom having been around when there was this alien landing or meteorite thing that happened in 1978. and she keeps talking about her mom, but she's also constantly spouting like Alex Jones style like conspiracy stuff at all the people in the bar. She's also the town drug dealer, this character Shauna, and that's why she's connected to Chloe and Misty, is because she sells them Adderall. And she ends up...
Of course it's a Shauna. That's a drug dealer name I've ever heard of.
And the actress who plays her, really, honestly, like she did a pretty decent job with what she was given. Her name is Georgia Wiggum, and she's been on shows like Shameless, and she's done a number of other things. So she's...
Oh, her dad's
chose her for this part.
Did you just say her dad's the chief of police of Springdale?
And then Kelley said they chose her for this part.
We're on the same track, Kelley.
They did a double Simpsons whammy.
Use guys.
So
we spit roasted her with the Simpsons.
Aww.
It's low hanging fruit. It was there, so we took it.
Misty at the bar that night spots all these frat boys hanging out together, and one of them is one who had raped her. And
always hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then her friend Chloe, she spots her friend Chloe flirting with this guy later, even though, they established that she told her friend what happened.
Yeah, I sort of saw this scene.
Yeah.
The friend's very dismissive of it.
Right. And then the other friend, another frat guy who looks remarkably like the bad rapist frat guy, ends up leaving with Chloe. They leave the bar together, and Misty goes into a panic because she's like, these guys are bad news. She shouldn't be leaving with him. And her and Shauna, because she steals Shauna's phone, her old flip phone, because Shauna's paranoid about being spied on. She steals her flip phone to try to call Chloe, and Shauna ends up following her out of the bar as Misty is trying to track down Chloe and this bad dude she's left the bar with. They end up going to the frat house, and they find the guy tied to a bed, and he's got a big bite taken out of his leg. And Boo just laid his head in Mike's lap.
He just cuddled up. It's so cute. Okay.
So they find this guy, Aaron, strapped to this bed, who is not the rapist, but is rapist adjacent. He's part of the same frat. He's the one that left Chloe.
Not the rapist.
I'm no rapist, you rapist. And he
dinosaurs.
He explains that there's no way they could have seen him at the bar because he was here with some girl he met, and that she got real weird and tied him to the bed and bit him, and then she turned into him. And that's who they saw at the bar, was this doppelganger character. And this is where it picks up to where Shauna is like, I knew it all along. I was right. She goes home. She's like, Mom, you were right. And the mom character's got rollers in her hair and a shotgun. It's what you that kind of goofy. They're like the white trash towny characters that were really right about this alien invasion all along type of thing. And from there, it's a madcap run through the town to stop the invasion. It's like a very middle of the road movie. It's one of those things that I don't know. It's not great. It's not really a recommend for me, but it's not terrible either. It's if you really like this genre of movie and you got nothing else going on, it's a fun way to spend. Maybe, I guess it's 90 minutes or so. If you're maybe really drunk and have friends with you, it probably would be much better, but watching it by yourself, it's really not a remarkable movie in any way.
So
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I got a whole tangent to go on.
Yeah. I just want to say that's kind of the MO for these Hulu After Dark movies.
Into the Dark?
They're like making them just because they're just there.
Well, it's Blumhouse, and Blumhouse is really good at turning a profit. Like, they can invest a very small amount in a movie and make it appealing enough that enough people will watch it that they'll make their money.
I think they're just making them for the novelty of like, hey, we're releasing a horror movie a month, as opposed to putting really a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, and also I don't know if these are movies that were already being made and they just bought them or what, but the beginning of this movie, the look of it is it has a look. It's very put together as far as the visual. The use of green in the movie is really striking. So it's not all bad. It's just it doesn't have the heart. It attempts at humor, but no real heart. That's what's missing. Where when you watch The World's End, like, you really feel for these characters. Their relationship elements are more important than the alien invasion. And in this case, they just were in, it felt like the relationship stuff was just in there as an afterthought.
So here's my question. I'd like to speculate about this a little bit. So, we know a lot of creative people through this and just through our knowing people. And I feel like most creative people who create content very much try not to copy other things and to find out if things are out there that are already kind of like what they're working on, or trying to change things. But then, and I'm not talking about, by the way, in this conversation, Asylum. That's its own thing.
Well, yeah, that's a deliberate. Yeah,
that's like super deliberate. But like, what do you think? And I know money, blah blah blah. I get why the studios make them, but how do you think some like these writers who write these movies that are obvious and very clear ripoffs of another better movie, like, do you think that they are just like, fuck it, I'm going to copy The World's End? Or do you think that they're just like, this is what they asked me to do, I guess I should try that? I have trouble as a creative person, even given the money. Like, if someone were like, I want you to make The World's End for this budget and it with these archetypes, will you do that? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Well, I can tell you the guys who wrote the people who wrote this. It was Catherine Wignall and Mike Gann, and this was the first credit that Catherine Wignall had. So she may have been doing this to like break in to screenwriting, would be my guess. Mm-hmm. And Mike Gann, the things that he's worked on are more like they kind of feel like, well, he's only had one feature besides this called Burn, which is a thriller, which again is critically, it looks like he wrote and directed that, but it looks like it was kind of received like it's okay kind of thing. The critics are like, it's a thriller, it's kind of standard. So I just feel like maybe, and I haven't seen Burn, I'd be willing to check it out. It has a decent cast, and I'm always curious like what a first time director does, but I have a feeling that this might have just been a job.
Yeah.
I don't think there was it doesn't feel like there was love in it. Like I said, the heart's really missing. Also, these things, again, they're not written organically in the way a lot of great movies are. This is very much like they need to hit certain beats and points.
Right.
And so it's just kind of a very lifeless, generic. Although it's not dull in a lot of ways, where some movies play it safe and they tone everything down when they make a movie like this, and they're like, well, we can't risk going too far out and being too silly with things, so we'll make everything kind of like that silver bypass whitewash, like everything looks dull, like a lot of Irish independent movies use that. This is a very bright and colorful movie, and a lot does happen action wise in it, and but it's just got no heart, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just feel like it's one of the, I'm very curious, I guess, where these writers come from and then where they go. Like, because I hear what you're saying about it probably is a way to get in.
I just thought of Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah.
That's where they go. They go wherever Cotton Eye Joe is. And I feel like it's almost like an actor saying, I'm going to start in porn to get myself started, and then kind of never get out of it. Like, I feel like, I wonder if it's how it is for writers with these things. Like, hey, this is an opportunity for you if you'll just do like a copycat of it, and then you'll end up doing stuff. And then I feel like they probably just end up doing more of this or nothing, you know?
Well, yeah, but then again, you can look at, I think some people see like Frank Darabont's career or Gus Van Sant, or these guys who worked in genre stuff and found a way to elevate it and make themselves stand out. It's just, that's so rare. Like, somebody is that big of a talent that they can go in and make something that would otherwise be a money grab type of production, or just real basic, not really like a product, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Or they become something that normally, if in other people's hands, would just be a product, and they elevate it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this person is really a major talent because they did something unique with something that's been done a million times. And you got to take those shots if you get them, because how often, as a writer, do you get a chance to put your work in front of that big of an audience? I think that's what it is usually, is just they get a break to do something that they know will be distributed and they're like, this is my chance. I'm just going to do the best I can and hope I can parlay it into something else. That's what it feels like. No, you're right. But then again, I could be wrong. And maybe this was like a movie that was put together over long nights of fun drinking and brainstorming, but it doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah, and I was lying earlier when I said I wouldn't do that. I would if someone offered me the money to do it, but like I don't know. I'm just curious about that sort of whole thing. Well,
a friend of mine, my good friends Matt and Josh Riffle, who are brothers, and then Blade, Zach, who they all work on scripts and stuff together. Mostly Matt and Blade, but they every time they get the chance to get the rights to something that they're interested in, they try to get them and do spec scripts and stuff like that. So they're constantly writing, and it's like, it's never just that one thing. They might have a dozen things sitting that they're working on and trying to churn into the system and get made or adapt for other people. So I think there's such a balance, like the ones who are really working all the time, to get that, to get to that point where if something actually gets made. A lot of these people write for a decade before anybody gives them a real job,
Yes.
Every day.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's a commitment. It's not crazy. I mean, it's a good thing.
So do you recommend
it?
This?
Is a commitment.
I do not.
Okay.
Do not recommend it.
All righty then. Let's see who's up for the next one. Bitches. Was that nice? No. All right,
that was
Kelley.
uncalled for.
I know. All right, Kelley, crank it. Crank that Jack in the Box.
Kelley cranks it.
Crank that soldier boy.
Crank that soldier boy. Bitch.
I got it.
You're up.
I threw an extra sad trombone in there for you, Kelley.
Thank you.
You get to watch and review a movie called Blood Quantum.
Oh, no.
Don't worry.
I'm sorry. This is the funny name.
It's on Shudder, and it's actually getting pretty good reviews, so I think you'll be okay, but who knows?
Yeah, Shudder. Yeah, usually the Shudder stuff is good.
Yeah. The dead are coming back to life outside the isolated... Give me a second to think about the pronunciation.
Like they do.
Micmac Reserve of Red Crow.
Micmac Burial
Ground. The Micmacs. That's they made the pet cemetery.
Yeah.
There you go. Except for its indigenous inhabitants who are strangely immune to the zombie plague.
This sounds good, actually.
Yeah.
It does. It sounds like somebody read Pet Cemetery and was like, we got to use these Micmacs. They bring shit back from the dead.
It's got looks like a Native American cast. So,
awesome.
Nothing, hopefully they didn't do anything wrong there. And that's good. Cause you gotta try to represent. Mm-hmm. No, it's on the Shutters, and I've heard good things. So,
is it one of those Shudder exclusives?
So. I don't know if it's an exclusive, but it's on Shudder.
Because I feel like Kelley said, like the Shudder stuff that exclusive is pretty much a sign of quality most of the time.
Yeah, it's usually real good.
Yeah, they've got good curators. Or a curator. I guess Sam is the only one who curates there. I'm not sure though.
So we shall see.
All right.
Anything else before we move on? All right then.
뭐야, 소독해? 창문 닫아.
나도 봐. 공짜로 집안에 소독도 하고.
부모님 얼굴도 뵙고 좋더라. 건강들 하시고.
일거리가 없으셔도.
네가 내 대신 얘 과외 선생님 좀 해줘라. 영어.
대학생인 척하라는 거야?
구라를 좀 치지 뭐.
너 이 좋은 실력으로 왜 미대는 맨날 떨어지냐?
아이씨, 죽을래.
저는 이게 위조나 범죄라고 생각하지 않아요. 참으로 시의적절하다. 부자들이 원래 참 잘 속아. 사모님이 뭐랄까.
풀타임으로 수업 어떻게 하시는지. Is it okay with you? 완전 예술가 재질인데.
침팬지를 그린 거죠?
자화상이에요.
역시.
그동안 미술쌤도 여러 명 바꿔가면서 해봤는데요.
제가 사람 하나가 휙 하고 떠올랐는데.
아 잠깐. 제시카, 외동딸, 일리노이, 시카고. 과선배는 김치모, 그는 이사촌.
부자인데 착하다니까.
진짜 니가 착한 거지. I'm deadly serious.
근데 지금 진짜로 이상한 게 뭔 것 같아.
So if your Korean isn't up to snuff,
I'm ashamed to say it is not.
That was riveting for all the listeners.
I know. Hey, some of our listeners do speak Korean, so for them it was just fine. So I figured it made more sense to let those people enjoy it and everyone else take a breather and listen to the nice music. Why not? But this
just before we start, I suggest if you haven't seen this movie yet to not listen to the episode. Because it's best to watch this movie without knowing anything about it, I think.
Agreed. I stayed away from really any kind of synopsis of this, any kind of I really wanted to go in completely blind, basically, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, and we're definitely we always spoil the main attraction, so you don't want to spoil this movie for yourself. It's too good.
I had actually had some of it spoiled.
Did anybody know anything about this movie before watching it?
I did.
Okay.
Because I listened to Keith and the Girl, and there was an episode where Keith went in on how much he hated it.
That doesn't surprise me.
And was spoilery, but I don't think it.
She hated it?
Yeah.
Oh, Keith did?
Keith's a contrarian.
Hated it, but kind of talked about some things, which I think put an interesting perspective in my mind about it. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely check this out. It's on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, you can watch it. But the basic description is greed and class discrimination threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan.
Kim clan.
This is Bong Joon-ho, who did Snowpiercer, Mother. I haven't seen Aksha.
The Host.
He did The Host, which was awesome. Really, really good director.
This is the fourth movie of his that we've covered so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, we're hoes for ho.
Yeah, we're hoes for ho.
We're hoes for ho.
This, it's really an interesting movie. It goes places you don't quite expect. I did get a tiny bit of it spoiled. Obviously, it won Best Picture. I don't take a lot of stock in that, especially now that
Well, it's funny that the Oscars don't matter until they do.
Right. Yeah. In this case, it was a big deal. For it being the first time this has happened with a foreign language film, but
this is because it's so rare for Oscars to go for something that's not safe, or predictable.
Is the only reason that this movie is considered unsafe or unpredictable is because it's a foreign language film?
Well, that, and it's like kind of not a historical drama, which Oscars tend to go for, and you can't really box it into a certain genre.
It has a small cast too, which is uncommon. Like usually the Academy, they tend to, and some studios even angle and filmmakers angle at this, like costumes and big casts. For some reason, those tend to win more awards than small, movies with small casts, and I don't know why that is.
I think there's a perception that to be able to wrangle such a huge amount of stuff into one movie and get it all to work,
it's
I
just
think there's
a pat on the back.
Perception that or just that it takes a lot of skill to do that. You know, if you can pull it off, I don't know, but I feel like that's kind of how people see it. They're like, oh my God, they look at all the costumes and all the work that went into it.
Right.
All the, you know,
yet they snub sci-fi movies who do that to the extreme of that. You don't get more exotic locations and more costuming than you do in like
Wakanda
speculative movies. Oh,
that got nominated for Best Picture.
They did get nominated. So maybe it's changing. I think the Academy is definitely evolving on that.
One thing that was interesting going into this, so when I heard Keith and the Girl rant about how, so normally a movie like this would be very black and white. The poor people are the good ones. The rich people are the bad ones. And this is not at all the fact of this movie. In fact, it's extremely gray. And his whole thing was like, the poor people are the evil villains and the rich people are nice. They're nice to them.
Yeah, but I think
so. His problem was it was too subtle and too that the motivations weren't easy enough to latch onto and decide who your hero and villain were.
I'd have to go back and listen. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but
I have to discount that because that's silly.
But I don't think it was as clear as that either. But definitely, you know, I think the problem of this the movie to me was trying to say, the thing it was trying to tell us is that nobody really knows how anybody has it. In a way, you know, like
it's not a criticism of the characters; it's a criticism of the system that allows this whole thing to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, and there's a great thing when the movie closes out. In the end credits, there's a song they wrote for the movie. Do you know about this, Andy? Like the
My Heart Will Go On.
Yeah, where they talk about the heart of the ocean. They wrote and recorded it for the movie, and the name of the song is like 500 something years, but it's about like how long it would take the son to work. You know, in the end of the movie, and we'll get to that later.
To buy the house,
if he really did work to buy the house, it would take over 500 years.
Well, that's fucking depressing,
right? And that's the point of the movie is like that whole concept of bootstraps and people pulling themselves up and anyone can do it. Like this
Don't work like that.
This is a criticism of that idea. It's just, you know, some people are lucky. Some people are born into certain privileges and others aren't.
Some people start on third base.
Right. And some people are just made for that. And they make that point with the sister character that some people are made for that and they can excel and fall into that lifestyle and come up from being poor, but not everyone can. So like, I just find that really interesting, but it starts with this family. The mom is like a former Olympic medalist, a hammer throw athlete. And that's like it seems like their one big thing that the family achieved. But now they're all, you know, I would say dirt poor, and they're working folding boxes for a small pizza restaurant, and they're folding all these boxes and barely getting by.
That is my generation. I feel like I'm not Gen X, I'm not a millennial, I am pizza generation.
Yeah. That's right, pizza generation was the name of the restaurant. Mm-hmm. It just, the fact that the whole family is part of this gig economy type thing where they're just doing whatever they can in between to get by and barely getting by. And they have one kid, the kid who made it out is the college graduate friend who comes to visit, the one who they kind of are real proud of. I guess he's the kid who made good from the neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah, men.
He comes and brings them I started to say a philosopher's stone, which is kind of what it is. I mean, like, I know that's one name for it, right? It's a scholar's stone. Like, apparently I didn't know this until I was reading about the movie, but that's like a thing that people would set on their like desks and stuff or places where they work, and it's supposed to inspire you. And he leaves this with the family, and the mom says, we'd rather just have food.
Yeah.
And it's a symbol of, and I don't know that he even consciously wanted, you know, it didn't I don't think it necessarily meant anything to the director to put that in there at the time. But when you look back on it, it is symbolic of like a bootstraps thing, because they're saying, I'm not going to feed you. It's that whole teach a man to fish thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a stone that inspires you to become something better than you are, instead of giving you food. And it turns out that really that stone throughout the movie, every time it comes up, you're kind of like, it does no good. In fact, it ends up becoming the thing that he gets bludgeoned with later in the movie.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go into my whole idea, my whole feelings about the world, but I am absolutely not in love with the idea of meritocracies and just because you only deserve things if you're a hard worker, or if you are good at something that makes you deserving, and if you aren't or you don't, that you don't deserve those things. Because I'm not a particularly hard worker unless it's something I want to do, but I don't feel like that means I don't deserve things as much as anyone else.
I've grown to have that same viewpoint, I think, Kelley. I didn't used to have that because it's been instilled in me for so long that most of my life that, you do what you're supposed to do your part, and you'll be rewarded for it. But I mean, I come from a pretty poor background, not like dirt poor, but relatively. I mean, we were like welfare kids for a while. And we were in danger of losing our house a few times. Like we went through some really, really tough times. So like, I think that beat some of that out of me, because no matter how hard my parents tried, like we still hit moments like that, no matter what they were doing. And that was kind of eye-opening for me. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they didn't come from like traditional households with parents and stuff. They were foster kids a lot of the time. And
right.
I just think that sets you up, and people who don't live with that, they don't always get how hard that can be to come out of that and have a normal life. So watching this, it really resonated with me in a lot of moments. Just seeing the family kind of just getting by.
But then they get an opportunity thanks to this friend. He's like, listen, I got a job for you. I've been tutoring this rich kid. You want to do it? I'll make sure you get the job. And that was all well and good and earned in a straightforward, non-illegal, lying way.
No, it wasn't though, because he wasn't qualified for the job. That was part of the argument in the beginning, was you have to kind of lie to get this job. You're going to have to act like you're qualified for it.
You're qualified, but these people won't think you are unless you have this piece of paper. Which
is true of every moment throughout. Like as each one of them, obviously each one of them, when they get in, they do a good job.
Yeah.
It's not about having that degree or whatever. Like, and that's another, it could be,
it is another
indictment. Of post-secondary education. Like this, in a lot of ways, is an indictment of that, because the people who get to go to those schools already have a lot of advantages, to get there and make it happen, and it's easier if you're not one of those people who has to work, a full-time job to go to school. Like, and like, it doesn't matter, because they come in and they do the same thing the people who put in the time getting the degrees did, and they do, or the work experience. Like the mom, when the first time the mom comes in and takes over for the maid, she's bringing the family these beautifully arranged dishes of fruit. Everything is like laid out pretty perfectly. Like the driver, he even comments on how good a driver the dad is when he takes over for the driver.
I guess what I'm more focused on is the way they get the jobs.
Yeah.
No, I know. We'll get to that. I do want to talk about that indictment though too, because again, the only reason I've ever gotten any jobs in what I consider my field is design, I don't have an education either, and it's very hard. Even though I have the same skills, and sometimes more so than someone coming out of college, because you teach yourself how to do stuff over the years. It's still very hard. I've absolutely lied about having a degree because, but it's without a certain thing to prove that you have it. It doesn't matter how good you are sometimes.
And with me, I lucked into a lot of, like, I'm the same way. I have some post-secondary education, but I never finished. And like, I lucked into a lot of things making social connections to people who had very different backgrounds from me, who helped me out and getting me jobs and positions, who kind of, and I know other people in my field who it's the same thing. It's kind of like who you know, and you kind of work those relationships, not in a nefarious or like manipulative way, but sometimes it just works out that way, where somebody interacts with you enough that they're like, they trust you, and then they recommend you for something. Like, you know, it's just interesting how, and that's what happens in this, is had he not had that connection to men, this whole ball never would have been rolling for them. Not that it turns out great, but
and similar to you, like what you're saying, I have manipulated situations, not in not in a nefarious way, but at jobs. I have definitely listened to conversations where I'm looking for opportunity to show them that I can do something other than whatever it was they hired me to do, and having to kind of fight and scrape to get them to notice, and just coming up with reasons like, oh, I'll design this for you, or oh, it doesn't matter what industry it would be, you know, oh, I could build you a brace, whatever it is. Aren't you know, sometimes you have to either make connections or manipulate opportunities and situations sometimes.
But Kelley, what you're doing is making sure you showcase your skills in a situation when an opportunity presents itself.
Yes.
Like whether or not there's a lot here to dissect, of course, but whether or not we believe in the game that has to be played in order to have success, like you wouldn't have done those pieces if you didn't believe you could do and had the skill set to do those jobs, or you would not have gone for taking those opportunities if you didn't believe that you could actually do those things.
And Kelley's also, I think Kelley's a risk taker sometimes. The impression I get, you're willing to take on something and learn it.
Well, there is a large element of that, because there are a lot of things that, because I didn't go to school, I don't necessarily have experience in as far as certain administrative things or brand. You know, there are a lot of things that I don't necessarily know that I think I can learn, like Freddy said. So I have jumped into things where I'm like, yeah, I can do all of that, and I think I can, but I've never done it, and I don't know for sure. But you know, yes, yes to both.
And also, even the successful people crawling up there, you can't get to where you are without stepping on some throats. Like, you know, because there's only certain room up there, and I have no doubt that these rich people have done a lot worse to get where they are than what these people did to get the jobs they did.
I don't feel that's always the case. I
don't either. I think it's unclear.
I think sometimes, and I think this movie points that out, is that sometimes the biggest sin of these uber rich people and these privileged people is the obliviousness to everybody else. And I think that's the biggest kind of aha moment I had in the movie, which is when they're having the party at the end, and like this horrible flood, and probably thousands of homeless people, and probably people died, and they are like, I'm so happy it rained because it's such a beautiful day today.
Yeah, clean the air pollution out.
The biggest sin sometimes is not even knowing or caring about anything else beyond your beautiful privileged life, and that's not an action they're taking, it's more of an inaction. No throats were stepped on, but that there is a sin in there somewhere.
Alise, after we watched it, she had talked about when she lived in New York during Hurricane Sandy, or she worked there. I don't remember if she was in Jersey or whatever, but and how the Upper West and Upper East sides, the rich sections, really didn't get hit that hard, but everything else was just like a wasteland, and there was no power. And how all of these people on, in the Upper West and East sides were upset because their nanny couldn't come in because they lived where everything was affected, and they couldn't wrap their heads around like, oh, I have to take care of my own kids today.
And beyond that, they probably thought like, I can get in my driveway, why can't you?
It's the popular boss thing. I got to work today.
Yeah.
Oh, I could spend a whole show bitching about shit.
Yeah, it's not like they're actively being assholes in this movie.
Right.
It's just an obliviousness to anything else,
And
any other kind of way.
Yeah.
This is one of those important things. Like, I feel like where I am currently in my career is I've done it very non-traditionally, but I do feel like I have success, but I don't feel like I've stepped on anybody's necks. Have I made mistakes along the way? Sure. But one of the things that I try, and I don't say I'm nailing it, but one of the things that I do try to do is realize that I have privilege now, and I'm gaining more privilege. And if I use that privilege correctly, then I don't think that there is a sin in the success.
Right.
I think the sin is, like Amy is saying, is that not realizing that my privilege is allowing me to continue, and not realizing that my privilege is allowing me to present other people privilege.
Right. And that's a big deal. I think that's kind of what I think about Mike too, is like, I try to remember, like, and I'm in a place where I'm very happy with my situation. I'm not rich, but we're doing okay. Like we can get our needs are met. And last year we went on vacation. We even had this conversation between us just the other day, but like above and beyond that, like I do remember those times where, having government cheese delivered and living on bologna and all that stuff. I can get where somebody born into wealth who never had that experience may not have that same concept of, once they do have that opportunity, to try to pay it forward to somebody else who was struggling.
Right.
Because it just doesn't occur to them maybe sometimes. And I think maybe that's part of it too, Andy, like that whole, they want to climb it, but they don't think about the people who are just trying to get to the middle because they're too worried about getting to the top.
Right. I think the rich characters in this too, it wasn't even, it's like they don't look any deeper than, well, we're paying you a good wage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So again, even in their mind, they kind of can justify to them, they're like, well, we're paying these people really good money. And well, they don't even think about them being poor. They just, they don't think about their lives much outside of what they do for them.
Right.
And I think the sin lies somewhere in there as well, about just not looking any deeper at people other than what you see right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, stepping off our soapboxes for a second, it was still, regardless of their motivations and their actions, it was still really entertaining the way they went about it. It was like a heist.
Yeah. Very much.
The peach fuzz and the hot sauce.
Just each step they took and the planning they did.
Mm-hmm.
It was like watching like Ocean's 11 or something, or Ocean's 8.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Normally I hate heist movies, but like that Rick and Morty episode. But it was still, aside from everything else, what you think about these people, it was still entertaining.
No, it was. And I felt like that's one of the great things about this, is how the tone kind of shifts as it moves along. But even because it was almost like, not funny, but it felt kind of like you said, like a heist.
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to figure out how to get rid of this person?
Yeah.
Even while what they're doing is kind of horrible.
Right. They're taking from other people who might be in just as bad, if not worse, situations than theirs.
They're stepping on throats.
Yeah, they really are. But that's the saddest thing is, and this comes down to my communist heart maybe, but like, the Park family has enough resources where they could have been somewhat redistributed to help all of those people.
It's socialism, not communism.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But like the thing that they are fighting for scraps, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the whole underwear left in the driver's car thing, the peach fuzz, like they're hurting. And this is so true of, I think, especially here right now, we see this a lot with people in the lower middle class and the middle class who are aspiring to better things. They fight each other instead of fighting
by design.
Yeah. And they are thankful to, and it's even illustrated with the housekeeper's husband who's been living in the basement, like where he is praising Mr. Park because if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have anything.
Right. It's crazy. And it does back to the soapbox. And again, it comes back to the whole lie of the bootstraps and meritocracy is these people are, it's like it's instilled into them. Like I'm pulling myself up by my boot. You know what? Like that's how you have to do it.
It's interesting though that they don't really ever blatantly say that. The Mr. Park character,
well, not these characters,
right? Yeah, they're actually, again, they say they're really nice.
Yeah,
and they say for rich people they're really nice, but then the quote is they're nice because they're rich.
Yeah. And I meant the poor people, like who they're told like you have to pull yourself up by like the pizza restaurant owner. Yeah,
where she says, "Do you understand? Like 10% is a fair docking penalty yeah. because 1 in 4 of these boxes are unusable. Like that's a fair penalty." Right. Which is like a weird thing too. As you progress in the movie, one of the family of 4 ends up dying through the course of this, and I don't know if that was a deliberate thing, like a callback to the 1 in 4 thing in the beginning of the movie or not. But it was just like this whole concept of, again, and the people who run this pizza restaurant are probably the working poor too. There's a reason why they can't afford to take 25% of these boxes back that they can't use or hurt their brand.
Right. Well, they just said like, how do you think this will look for our brand, this folded box?
Yeah.
So it goes back to the idea of image over everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's still a box. It still works, but just that one little fold would make you to believe that it's a lesser pizza company, even though it's doing still a good job of delivering pizza.
Right.
It's the pizza of our generation.
But it's very, very thought-provoking movie, like all throughout.
It was something I was thinking about the other day is how hot, I mean, this is probably the most blatant thing, but the other day, we just watched this last night. What the fuck am I even talking about?
It's all blur.
It was the other day.
Their house is up here. And then when they finally get out from underneath the table, when they're hiding after all the shit went down, and they're running back to their house only to find it flooded, but they go down and down. And
they're way down the valley.
It's a very upstairs, downstairs type thing.
Like just constantly downstairs.
It's a classic setup
into the sewage.
Yeah, visually, like it's like a whole Manor on the Hill thing.
Like I talked about how I kind of liked their little shithole apartment.
I did too.
It was
seemed cozy, didn't it?
It was kind of cozy. Like if you fixed it up and it never flooded and the toilet didn't spew shit. But I kind of like that toilet up on the stairs.
It was interesting, right?
It's like a throne.
It was really fun.
Well, that's a luxury in certain Asian countries because sometimes you just have a literal hole in the ground.
Right. Yeah.
No, thank you. I'm going to go with my privilege of having an actual toilet. I'm used to it and I want it and I'll fight and step on throats for it.
This is where you're going to put your privilege to work for you.
Yes. I'm always going to have a toilet.
we
Do
hope.
you feel like in this film, the rich people that are portrayed in this film, like, do you have any evidence of seeing that they're villains?
No,
not really.
Nobody's a villain and nobody's a hero in this movie.
Right.
Well, I kind of feel like they fucking poisoned that poor housekeeper.
Right.
They could have killed her.
They set the driver up to basically look like he was having
rapist.
sex in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to me, those were villainous actions.
They are.
It is.
But they're nuanced in a way because you get to watch the characters rationalize why they're doing them. You know what I mean? Like he says he's a young
they kept saying
driver,
like, he's good looking.
Yeah.
He's young. He'll get another job somewhere else. So that's how they rationalize it to getting rid of, this driver. And they say like, she's a nice lady. She's a good housekeeper. She'll get a job somewhere else. So it's easy to rationalize that as long as you're getting ahead.
Right.
I think it does a good job of showing you how things that can be perceived as villainous, again, by just people that look at everything black and white, go into our news on Reddit and see some of the people who have problems or who defend things that you're like, how can you defend that? Mm-hmm. Because they don't realize, they don't go back and look sometimes. They just see someone as you could easily see those characters as being complete villains if you want to.
Yeah. But it's like a blinder. It's a magic trick because they're like, look over here, look at these poor people fighting for these scraps. Meanwhile, Mr. Park is sitting on a mountain of money.
Yeah. And then you go back and look at their motivations and you can see sometimes why certain things are done,
Well, it was just interesting to me, and I think this is like when you look at good art, right? Like we put our own whatever on it. And what was interesting to me is like, my brain obviously is always trying to classify good, bad, black, white, those kinds of things. That's just my brain doing it. But like, as I was trying to kind of sit through some of it, which I think the movie does beautifully, is it does seem to give evidence of the poor people who are stepping on threats. So you see evidence of them doing bad things. You also see that when they get the opportunities, they're all very good at what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're very good at what they're doing. Then on the flip side of that, you see the rich family. You're not really given any evidence, good or bad. Like, put your screens on. Sure. Did they have luxury? Do they have the ability to have a garden party when when there's flooding? Yes. But, and your screen could be saying, oh, they should be giving money to these people who don't have homes anymore. But all of that evidence, you don't really get unless I miss something of whether or not it is good or bad. But we do get evidence for poor choices that the poor families are making on that same level. And to me is interesting on what that was really saying. Like, as this film for you to say your shit, what you choose to put on your shit with, like I could identify with the poor families because sure, I was triggered by a lot of that stuff from, my upbringing. But like,
well, I think at the end of the day, it just shows that the poor people, even though they did certain bad things, at their heart, they're good people because they kept worrying about people in the basement, even though they just tied them up
and
push them down the stairs. Yeah. They said that, like bring them some food. They must be hungry. And even the driver was always still praising Mr. Park. Like, he's a nice person. The lady is a nice person. Like, it's just like it shows that even if you do certain bad things, you're not necessarily all bad or good. You're a human.
Well, there's also people who the characters who take a lot of action in this movie are your basement. I'll call it the basement family, and then the
people under the stairs.
The people under the stairs, like. Again, this is a great point too. Like the husband who lives in the basement, who is doing the Morse code thing all the time and praising Mr. Park. Mr. Park never knowingly did anything for that guy. It was all just his wife stealing and bringing him food, right? So it was never the direct action of the people who lived upstairs that were taking care of him. It was indirect. It was just he was benefiting from being there. But
the wife, to say it on that though, not to interrupt Freddie, but the wife does say she didn't steal anything. Everything that she is giving him, she paid for.
Yeah, but earlier in the movie too, and I think she might not necessarily, I don't think that's meant to be taken literally because earlier in the film, Mr. Park tells the driver, she's eating for two people. She eats so much. Like, it's because she's taking food to her husband. And I think when she says she paid for it, she did pay for it. You know what I mean? She may not have gone out and bought it, but she's putting in it's that whole living wage argument. Like, if she's working for this family, she should be able to feed her husband. And like, because that's just happening through osmosis and the Parks aren't really doing anything to help him directly. And what Andy's saying is the Kims, though, they actually actively take steps, even though they have that big brawl and the fight and the peach allergy stuff, they still do actively take steps to go back down there and try to at least give them the very basic help they need. So, but that's, again, all of this is just like it's all a distraction because they feel like, and I think the theme of the movie kind of comes down to like, you can't become Mr. Park. Like you can try to do that. you will never become him. And you will always be fighting for whatever is down there at the bottom. You know, like it's kind of just like kind of nihilistic, but like, it's like you got to stop and just kind of take care of each other because they're never actively going to do it. What?
You're supposed to take care of people because you're supposed to. That's just human decency.
Right. Yeah. And there was enough of a situation here where they could have worked it out and it could have worked out for everyone. But what it came down to was a kind of greediness. The one who really, I think, had it, who understood the situation the best was the original housekeeper. She knew, like, I think she had a sustainable system down in her mind where even if she came back, like if she had been in charge, I think like everyone would have been okay.
Right.
But it was a matter of everybody trying to eke out a little more, I think, that really kind of screwed them. But it's also so vague and nuanced. Like, I think that's what's great is because it's not like spoon fed to you. I don't think that he wants you to come away from this with like a definitive answer to any of these questions. Like, it seems like you can just stew on it for days.
Well, I think we're trained to root for the poor people automatically.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the 80s thing of the rich fraternity versus the poor fraternity.
Yeah, or the underdog.
Yeah, so like it challenges you to root for the people that you're not necessarily supposed to.
Right.
And root against the people that you train to root for.
What I thought when I watched this, I actually didn't root or not root for anyone specifically. Like I wasn't, for me, it wasn't a rooting kind of movie where I felt like, and kind of like we've been talking about, it was more about seeing different people's behaviors and motivation and places where they were kind and places where they were unkind on both sides. So for me, it was just sort of like everyone, internal, intrinsic person point of view, everyone is a person. And then the difference is the privilege versus not the privilege. But it did, it's definitely not a movie where it's easy to just say, oh, this person is virtuous and should, again, just like what I was saying about like, what does deserving mean? And this is a family that they are fighting, doing anything they have to protect each other because they're like, all we have in this world is each other. And we can't worry about all this other shit. And I think both families are kind of on that same page in two different places on the spectrum.
Right. And there's also like a lot of, like you're saying, like, I don't think there's any real criticism of individuals in this at all. It's more about the system that ends up separating these two families in a really weird way. Every time Mr. Kim tries to like connect with Mr. Park on the drives and stuff, whenever they're about to connect as human beings, Mr. Park kind of puts the kibosh on it. And he even talks to his wife about, he goes right up to the line, but never crosses it, which I really like. And then when he talks about like the smell and the fact that the son is obsessed with like Native Americans and the mom is giving and having them all dress up like this historically oppressed people, yet they hold them like in this reverence. Like even the dad is talking about, they're these warriors. It's noble. It's so noble. The noble savage thing. And I think he looks at all of the Kim family as noble savages and he respects them in a different way, but like they're a different species than he is. And that as long as he can see them as, you are this species and this is what your life is like and you smell like radishes and we don't smell like radishes. So like we're two different things and that's fine. And that's okay because we live in this world and you live in that world and your world is just as important, as good as ours, but we're not going to cross over. This is two different worlds.
Rock with the radishes.
Yeah. So much radish.
Because people lived underground and some people lived above.
It's true. Like when you think about it, radishes do grow underground. That's why he smelled like radishes. Probably.
Is that what you said?
Oh my God.
What did you say, Kelley?
So back to the movie, like
Yeah.
How
I said it's like
surprised were you
Fraggle Rock.
guys when the twist happened about the people living under the stairs?
That's the part of it that kind of got spoiled for me. Somebody said somebody was living in the walls or something is what I overheard in a conversation, but I still had kind of forgotten about that by the time it got to that moment. And when they revealed that, I was like, this movie would have been great even without that. But once that happened, I was just like, damn. I was like, this is just a great another layer to this, especially that they thought he was a ghost.
Yeah,
Right.
just the reveal of it, of her going down the stairs and,
Down
it was
that really-
almost like a horror.
Yeah, well, first
I thought it was going to become a horror movie. I really did.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I thought, oh shit.
when you first see like the woman, like she's like stuck trying to push the shelf. but
That's so funny.
And her legs she's like between the wall and the shelf, and she's just like hovering there. At first I was like, what the fuck? Like, is she like levitating? And then I realized. But then she's like, they're like following her down these crazy long hallways and staircases, and like, where the fuck are we going right now?
Yeah.
That was
I
really
had no
bananas.
idea what was down there. It could have been like a zombie or a monster.
Yeah.
But I think I was like trained to think it was scary because of Bong Joon-ho's previous output.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was like, oh my God, is it a kaiju or something?
Surprise, it's Hostel 4, baby.
Frankly, I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, it's just her husband, and he's just a debtor. Okay.
You know what's kind of neat though about that sequence?
But he was kind of a horror movie.
He was scary. He was kind of scary
Fucking
at
bananas.
points. But when she explains the housekeeper had been the housekeeper for Namung, or I think was his name, the architect that built the house. When she explains too, there's even kind of a deeper thing I feel like going on when she says all the rich people had these bunkers put in case we were bombed by North Korea, but they were all ashamed of it. Like it was admitting that there was something more powerful, that they couldn't take care of themselves, that they would ever have to be pushed underground for any reason, like they had them, but they didn't want people to know that they ever could be in that level of need or something, which was also
she
kind
also-
of, yeah.
She also said that was because of the creditors. If the creditors
And they could
came
hide from
calling,
creditors too. Yeah.
which I do also think is part of that facade of social class sometimes. Like, do you have something that you can actually afford? Is this really yours? Whose is it?
Right.
Well,
yeah.
I think that was a huge theme throughout, is just like even that sentence about the rich people hiding from creditors, like you said, like, because you can't afford this place. And I think so many of the problems, as you mentioned earlier, had so much to do with decision making, less about cruelty. Like, and we talked about how these people were able to do this stuff without, having gone to school or having had this experience. But the fact that Mrs. Park didn't give a shit about documentation or where they came from, she just took someone's word for it and had no interest in like doing even a minimum of research on these people. If she had just a little bit, it would have, you know what I mean? It was like her obliviousness and just only caring about appearances was really sort of her downfall.
But she had the social training that got used against her. To kind of really back up your point, Kelley, she had the social training because she even says to the girl, like, if you had somebody that you were recommending, that's clearly the best way to get somebody.
Exactly.
So, like, she was using that knowledge against her because of her social training. Like, you would know somebody, or someone would vouch for that person, or someone would like say this is that level, or the level that you've come accustomed to. I also thought it was really interesting too in that whole, like, when you're talking about that creditors piece and like what is real and what is rich and what is not rich, and the facade of that. I found it really interesting in that sex scene that they're having, that they're really going at it, that he says to, will you go put on the girls the panties?
Oh, the cheap panties. Ugh.
Yeah. He was into,
Gross.
it was a weird, like, that they wanted to slum it was like their thing that got them going.
Right. But they even make, like, through this film, like, there's this ongoing theme of like the smell or whatever. And at one point, the husband, the rich husband, smells the panties.
Yeah, I remember.
And then
screaming.
during this like really vulnerable time, he says, go put those panties on. So it's almost that like idea of like, is this really like what's appealing to you, or is this like the smell, like really actually what turns you, like what is it that really turns you on? What is it that really gets you going? What is it that really like is the real thing? And really
just play acting, like role playing
into it.
The interesting,
like it's exciting to play like this quote, like dirty person.
Yeah.
Buy me drugs. Elise thought that cracked her shit up.
Yeah, I was cracking up with that too. Did you know too? He was also, when he found the underwear, he looked repulsed when he I don't know why he sniffed them to begin with, but he holds them up and he's like, ooh, like, ooh, you know, like
radishes.
He wasn't like excited about it.
You gotta see how long they've been there. They're fresh or not.
Oh, okay. I see.
I guess.
Yeah,
right. He doesn't seem excited,
radishes.
yet he wants his wife to go put them on so he can get really, really like passionate.
Isn't it interesting though that like the juxtaposition of him looking like he's repulsed by him the first time he sees him, and then he obviously has been thinking about it.
Well, and without getting into too much, there are a lot of things that people fantasize about that they're repulsed by in their normal life.
No, I'm kidding.
Or in a safe way.
It's almost like the aristocrats.
Yeah.
You know, because like they're doing these things that they think is gross, and that's like, you know, appealing to them because they're not supposed to.
They
can be exciting.
They're going to shunt each other.
Yeah.
Sell me drugs and shunt me.
Stop saying the word shunt. Yeah.
Was it? But like another thing I liked about this movie was like how many comedic moments there were.
Yeah, it was very funny.
Yeah, like even not necessarily supposed to be funny, like that fight between people like living downstairs and the family. That was like very madcap and
it was definitely played for to be like almost like a vaudevillian type of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the fact that when the guy finally busts out of the basement and kills everybody, it's at that kid's birthday again.
Yeah.
And you think the ghost coming back to kill his family.
Yeah.
It's great.
That was awesome.
Yeah, when he just passes out.
Yeah.
It was a really great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
I even remember as it was happening, I was like, this kid's going to think this ghost just came back and killed his family.
Well, in that scene where Mrs. Park is telling the story of how her son first saw the ghost.
Yeah.
And he's eating the cake by the refrigerator. And all you see coming up from the stairs is that guy's glowing eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really scary moment.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that it was just that guy, for me, made that moment really hilarious.
Yeah, but just visually, it was like, oh my God, it's like a J-horror or something.
Yeah,
well,
out of context,
is a great genre director, as you know, and so he's got those chops. Like he knows what's creepy, he knows what's scary too. Or just, you know, so I think there are a lot of moments where this feels like a horror movie, as we've talked about, without actually being one. I think that's a part of what makes him great.
Well, yeah, it's actually quite a few different genres of film that's all going on in this, and just done masterfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Above and Beyond, it's definitely like a satire comedy kind of movie. If I had to pigeonhole it into one genre,
like a black comedy.
Yeah, no, definitely. 'Cause it almost has, it's like got that fairy tale element of it never quite becomes 100% reality. Even their apartment is kind of magical where it is. The set design, where these were all sets. I was kind of thinking they were a little too magical to be real locations anyway when we were watching it. But their apartment's a set. The street outside, the mansion, all that. It all does feel very fairy tale. In some places, it even looks like a Studio Ghibli kind of movie.
Well, yeah. When they're running back to the apartment through the flood and the rain, very much a fantasy kind of scene.
Yeah, I love this movie was like a nice surprise because I love his movies, but I was wondering about this one. I guess the stills that were out there and the trailer stuff I'd seen, I didn't expect it to be what it was, which was nice. I like being surprised.
I was at the premiere.
Boo!
What'd you say, Andy?
I saw it when it first came out, so like I'm a
hipster.
Parasite hipster.
Yeah.
You're a real son of a bitch. All right, I'm starving to death. I'm so sorry. I'm starving.
We'll wrap it up, but I wanted to say
I'm getting hangry.
That when it got to the end of the film and the dad he was on the run, but we thought he was on the run, but the dad had fled to the basement and was now living down there. And he sent out a Morse code message to his son who had recovered from having his head bashed in. And I actually, for a very brief moment, when he says, I made a plan when he writes back to his dad after he decodes the Morse code letter, he says, I made a plan. You're going to earn money, a lot of it, university, a career, marriage. But first I'm going to earn money. I'm going to buy the house and we'll all be together again. And
yeah, it was sad.
Well, when they show that and they show it play out that he's buying it, I'm like, is this really how this is going to end and negate the whole theme of the movie?
Well, like you brought up, it was like a fantasy element too before. The idea of that him achieving this is a fantasy too.
Right.
Yeah.
So and the idea that anybody can be anything is a fantasy.
Right. And I think the thing that was lost on maybe an English speaking audience when you watch this is when it cuts right to the credits and they start playing that song, they don't subtitle the lyrics to the song. But the song is about how long it would really take him over 500 years to buy the house. So had I not gone out and read about that, I would have realized that he put such a capper on the end of it to say this didn't really happen.
Right.
And reinforces it with a song that plays over the closing credits, which is usually in most movies, that's just kind of a throwaway. At most it, is a slight thematic tie-in to what you watch, but it's rarely ever an actual important piece to understanding a movie. So I encourage people to look up the lyrics of that song and read them when you're done watching the movie. It makes it all the more heartbreaking.
Yeah. And also look up the symbolism of the Ramadan, the noodles they eat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of loaded symbolism behind that too.
Well, that's an interesting story. We'll make it real quick because Amy's starving, but I didn't know that he works with the same subtitle writer for all of his movies. So that's not like they go to a translator and then they add the subtitles. When he writes the screenplay, he works with the subtitle writer and they come up with these ideas and they made up the name of that dish with the noodles, but they were cheap noodles, but they were putting ridiculously expensive meat in it. And it was supposed to be a kind of, I guess, a slap in the face that they were making something like that for a kid. That was basically putting Kraft Dinner and Kobe beef together.
Right.
Right.
Anywho. I have the our Beelzebubs up on the screen there. Can you guys all see that?
Yes.
You don't see it, Amy?
No, I see
Oh, okay.
It's just messing.
She's fucking with me over here. Who wants to give out the shout?
I'll go.
You go.
I'll go. Hey, Ernie, Perez.
Hey.
Thank you. I would not smash you in the face with anything to get a job.
You want to smash?
I would. I do.
Yeah. Alise, thank you very much.
You want to smash that?
You would smash her in the face.
Want to and will. Yes, certainly.
Who's next?
Okay, Amanda G.
Woo!
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 We got Jeremy and Cassie.
Woo-hoo!
It's the birthday boy.
Yeah, happy belated birthday, Mark.
Sir.
Yeah. Balake Heath. Thank you.
Thanks for the masks.
Yeah.
Monica said they were from you too.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Bill. So much. We got Bill Fahrner.
Bill!
We got Tree and Alex.
Yay, guys.
We got Iona Goodwin. Amy, you're cute.
I own a great one.
Yeah.
Aww.
We got Jeff Lancaster.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Yeah. We got Brandon and Emily. Sent us a really nice email.
Yes, thank you.
And shout out to Emily's mom. She has a birthday coming up, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Emily's mom.
Happy birthday.
We got Adam Ingram.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
You've got the Bill Chandlers.
Bill. Bill's a hero.
No, that's Bill Farner. Who's in New York City?
Bill Farner.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Professor Farnsworth.
We've got the Blayne Turner.
Blayne. The Blayne.
And we got Todd Pompa and his adorable children.
Todd Pompa.
Todd Pompa, the ginger Italian.
Yeah. And finally, we've got Dennis Cannaday.
Cannaday.
That's my favorite day of the week.
Is Cannaday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. We love you very much.
Do we know what we're doing next week?
No, we don't yet. We'll figure that out here in a minute.
Okay.
And I did wanted to remind our subscriber who won the raffle, our MailChimp raffle.
We need your pick.
That we still need your pick. If for some reason the date comes and
let me know your pick,
and we don't know what you've chosen, we will figure something out.
That was a cover of "Let Me Smell Your Dick."
So check your emails.
Check your
spam. Hide your kids.
Yep.
Hide your wife.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Frankenstein was wondering if he should go to bed.